Hey, what's going on, fraggers? And we are back with a quick update on Call of Duty Blackout. I've been playing the beta over the weekend, since like Friday or so. But I definitely wanted to at least put a video up in regards to some of the things that I think we're all kind of wondering and trying to piece things together, because this is a tremendous mode, very good. I really like it. Definitely going to be playing this a lot on the channel, especially part of revamping. But without further ado, we're going to go into the top a list of perks. And so far, there's various lists I see online, as well as from my own research. Some lists has 7 perks, some has 13, some has even 14 perks. So we don't know the exact number of perks, but for right now, the maximum I've seen is 14. So we're going to go to the top 14 perks for Call of Duty Blackout mode, and that's what we're going to be focusing on right now. So unfortunately, I don't have like a clip of every single perk, because again, it's a battle royale, so there's a chance of you actually getting a clip of every single perk is going to be difficult, even if you've played it for several hours. But for the most part, perks work differently from how it does in the multiplayer. And that perk is a consumable item that you have to pick up, and you have to actually activate it for it to be used. It's not like a passive, passive perk like in the multiplayer. So that changes things up. It also adds an element of strategy to it, because you can only have, from what I've seen, up to 2 perks active at the same time. So, synergizing your perks and how to utilize them is key into understanding how to win the current situation you're in. So, without further ado, let's hop right in. So, perk number 1 is awareness, and so awareness, enemy footsteps are louder, and it takes all perks takes 2 seconds to activate. So that's standard across the board. But awareness only lasts 120 seconds. And awareness is definitely one of the best perks you can currently have, because being able to hear enemies' footsteps from further away, it allows you to kind of position yourself to be able to better take advantage of them and kill them. And I've used this perk a couple times in my live stream, and it's very, very good. After awareness, we have brawler, and not a very good perk per se, because using, unless you literally have to melee somebody, it's not really the best thing. But brawler increases melee damage, and you gain 50 health per each successful melee hit. Actually, this one takes this one lasts about 240 seconds. So this is probably, it is the weakest perk in the game in my opinion, and you rarely ever going to use it, because most of the time you're not in melee fighting somebody. But for the most part, it is there, and maybe they should revamp it a little bit, but for the most part, that's what brawler does. Consumer reduces the use of time of health and consumable items by 50%. The duration of this is 300 seconds. So consumer is a strong perk if you're in a firefight and need healing. It's definitely very good, particularly if you're in like a back and forth battle between an enemy where you're like peeking out of cover and he's peeking back and forth, and you kind of want to have that health advantage. So consumer is a good one for extended firefight. Dead silence is the next one, which I love. Dead silence. You move quietly, make less noise when opening stashes, lasts 240 seconds. This is definitely one of the better perks, particularly since sound is really big in this game. I see a lot of people running around and not realizing that this isn't Fortnite. Sprinting everywhere, it makes everybody aware of where you are. So that's something that I've been noticing. So Dead silence is a very good perk. It gives you quiet footsteps and just makes you overall more stealthy to execute on your fragging. Engineer is the next one, which reveals nearby vehicles and enemy equipment. This is a pretty interesting one, but for the most part, it's very useful, especially if you want to know where vehicles are, but also for when you want to possibly spot enemy trip mines, things like that. Actually, my first match, I actually got killed by a trip mine, so this would have been a useful perk to have had when that happened. And then after that, we have Iron Lungs, and Iron Lungs is for increased steady aim on sniper and tactical rifles, and breathe time underwater, or breath time underwater. Duration is 300 seconds. So Iron Lungs, of course, I think everybody kind of is familiar with Iron Lungs if they play Call of Duty, especially for those who love sniping. Unlike other games, sniping in Call of Duty requires you to actually hold your breath. So this perk is definitely the #1 perk for all the long-range snipers. But it's also useful tactical rifles too, so that's good to know. Looter is the next one. It reveals nearby stashes and loot items. Duration is 120 seconds. Looter is a pretty good perk, particularly if you need to get a lot of stuff fast. So if you're in a rush in early game, you need to gather, a lot of supplies right away. This kind of gives you a map of where the supplies is, because you're able to see stashes and stuff through your through doors and, you know, buildings, etc. So it kind of gives you, it makes you more efficient in terms of how you spend your time to gather items. After that we have medic, heals faster, revive faster. Now healing items restores more health, and down allies are revived with increased health. And duration for this one is 240 seconds. This is a strong early one, especially, you know, well, it's strong early and late game, if you think about it, because healing, you know, you know, if you're both using the same stim back and you're getting more out of it, then that means you have more value, and you could therefore last them if you're able to, you know, line up your shots better. But for the most part, you know, this is a good perk. Especially during team fights too, in case you need to revive somebody, because that way when you do revive them too, they also start with they get back up with higher health. Mobility is the next one. Move and swap weapons faster. Takes no fall damage. Oh, okay. Fire weapons and use equipment while sprinting, and move faster when reloading. Okay, duration for this is 300 seconds. So I didn't realize that mobility did all of this. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video too, because there's so much to this game that it's going to take a long time to fully master this game. Like probably longer than, let's say, even Fortnite, in my opinion, because this is it just starts with so much more. Granted, they're not always changing things. I don't think they will. You know, we'll have to wait and see, like Fortnite. Yeah, this one is a lot for one perk, and it's a bit all over the place, but overall it's a pretty strong, giving you a lot of small advantages. You probably won't really want to be firing weapons while you're sprinting in most cases, but using equipment might be useful. Moving faster while reloading is always welcome, and taking no fall damage is nice. So, you know, swapping weapons is pretty slow. It's pretty slow in this game though, so having these little mini advantage for your mobility all over is pretty good, and I guess that's why, you know, it's called mobility, because it's not just about sprinting, it's about moving, switching weapons, gadgets. You know, that's a lot actually, pretty much. So that's a good one for just overall outmaneuvering your opponents. Next after that is Outlander. This one reduces damage and increases movement speed outside collapse. Okay, interesting. So this one, I didn't realize this actually increases your movement speed outside of the collapse. This lasts 180 seconds. And this is only good if you're outside a circle and you don't have access to a vehicle. I mean, that kind of says it, you know. So because you take reduced damage and you sprint faster outside of the collapse, so that's a good perk to pop in case you're out of position. You need to get in the circle pretty fast. So that's you know, more of a utility perk, I'd say. The more you have the time, the perk isn't going to be useful, and you'll likely not be using it for anything else unless you happen to be outside the circle and have this perk. Paranoia is the next one. Receive an audible alert when an enemy is targeting you while in ADS. Lasts 240 seconds. Paranoia, I've used it a bit, but it sounds better than it actually ends up being, in my opinion, because most of the time, if an enemy's already aiming at you, you're probably going to be getting lit up. So, you know, it's almost like it's telling you the obvious, like, hey, somebody's aiming at you while you're getting bullet shot at you. So I'm not sure if they should modify this perk somehow or give you like a little bit of advantage. You know, maybe like make you aware of enemies in your area, like, you know, like an audible sound outside of like footsteps that, you know, enemies in the area or something. Maybe that might be a bit too powerful, but right now the way it is, it seems like it's a bit too obvious in terms of what it does, and the benefit it provides doesn't seem that high. Next after that is Reinforced, which I do like this one. Reduces damage from explosions and fire. Increased resistance to flashbang, concussion, and razor wire. Duration is 240 seconds. Now, the concussion grenades in this is a bitch. Like, seriously, like it takes you so long to recover from them. So Reinforced is very important, especially if you think your enemy has gadgets, flash, concussive grenades, all that other stuff, because those really could really disable you in such a way that it's hard to recover from even win a fight. So another weaker perk, but it's still useful in the later games where enemy might have, you know, a lot of gadgets to use on you. So I wouldn't recommend popping Reinforced early on, unless you have a feeling that you know, the enemy already has a lot of gadgets to use at you. But later on, it's definitely a good grenade, particularly against the cluster grenade. That cluster grenade does so much damage, so that's a good one against that. After that, we have Skulker. This one actually I like too. Move faster while crouching and prone. Lasts 180 seconds. This is an interesting one. Probably not a really strong one, but it is a good one in case you want to move at roughly about the same speed as if you're sprinting, but while crouching. So it's almost like you have the benefit of moving faster without making any or much sound. So I use this a lot in like the early parts of the game when I need to like skulk around and like get stuff fast, but at the same time I don't want to give my position away. So it's a good position depending on your playstyle. Because if you want to sprint everywhere, then this is probably not a good perk for you. But if you like being methodical and just like, you know, skulking around and going where you need to get without giving away your position or making loud sound, and yeah. After that, we have Squad Link Up, and that Squad Link Up allows you to see your teammates through walls. It lasts 120 seconds. This perk's pretty good, particularly in coordination with your team. A lot of times it's kind of hard to coordinate with your team if you can't see exactly where you are. You do get an indicator showing where your team are, but sometimes you don't really get anything else besides that indicator. So there's been a few times, you know, friendly fire has not been our friend. But this perks enable you to see the outline of your teammates while they're behind walls. It will be slightly useful in early on in the game, see your teammate especially looting, but most of the time you can tell where they are by the nameplate. So it's not a big use, but it's like a nice, you know, utility benefit, I would say. And so that, you know, those covers the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so those are the top 14 perks for Call of Duty Blackout right now as it stands for the beta. Will they add more perks? Will they modify it? We'll have to wait and see because this is a beta. But at least I think most of these perks will remain the same. I mean, there's, you know, overall I'll say maybe 60-70% are pretty good to decent, so I don't see the need to change them, but some of them might need to be retooled or repurposed a little bit to be a bit more useful. But for the most part, really excited for how they have the perks and everything set up, and I like that they have it in the game because it adds a layer of strategy and depth to the game that is not, you know, that would not be present otherwise. Because you have perks, you have gadgets, you have, you know, other stuff. So that's, you know, good to know. So know what these perks do and how to utilize them and how long they last is really important to really taking advantage and mastering this game. So hopefully you find this video useful. If not, you know, I'm doing other videos on Call of Duty Blackout. But until then, I'll see you fraggers later. All right, bye.